Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Okay, let's unpack this. Think about our world right now. It's running 24/7, isn't it?
It really is, nonstop.
And there are millions of people working shifts that have, well, nothing to do with the traditional 9 to 5. Nurses on the night ward, factory workers keeping production going.
First responders, security teams, so many essential roles.
Absolutely essential. They keep things running around the clock.
Right.
But what's the real, often hidden cost for these dedicated individuals?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the source material we've been deep diving into today points to something very specific. It's not just like general tiredness from working odd hours.
Right, not just feeling worn out.
Exactly. It's a recognized sleep problem, a condition directly linked to those non-traditional work schedules. It's actually called shift work sleep disorder, or SWSD for short.
SWSD.
Okay.
And our mission with this deep dive is really to use the information we've gathered to understand what SWSD is, maybe why it happens, and crucially, how to navigate it.
Yeah.
So if you work shifts, or you know someone who does, this deep dive is for you to help you become, well, really well informed on this specific challenge.
And it's so important to understand right from the start that SWSD isn't just, oh, that's part of the job, something you just have to suck up.
Yeah, just deal with it.
The source material makes it really clear it's a specific clinical condition. It affects people on night shifts, early mornings, or those with constantly changing schedules.
And honestly, if you've ever felt just utterly exhausted or struggled desperately to fall asleep when you finally get home after a late one.
Or just felt completely out of sync, yeah.
Because your work hours are all over the place, you are absolutely not alone. The source material highlights this is a really common and disruptive struggle for so many people.
So, okay, let's start by getting clear on what SWSD actually is based on the source. It defines it as a persistent sleep problem directly tied to working hours that clash with the typical daytime schedule.
Right. So at its core, it's basically a battle with your body's own timekeeper.
Pretty much. That internal clock, the circadian rhythm.
The circadian rhythm. This amazing biological system that kind of dictates when we feel awake and when we feel sleepy. And like we learned from the material, it's mostly influenced by light and dark, right?
Yeah.
From our environment.
Precisely. And SWSD happens when your work schedule essentially throws a massive wrench into this natural built-in rhythm. You're trying to be awake when your body is just screaming for sleep and vice versa.
And the result, well, people with SWSD really struggle, don't they?
Oh, definitely. They often have significant trouble falling asleep when they actually had the chance or, staying asleep long enough to feel properly rested.
Or the opposite problem, too.
Yeah, or battling intense sleepiness when they absolutely need to be alert and functional, like at work. They feel either wiped out at work or totally wide awake at home when they should be sleeping.
It really puts this into perspective when you look at the numbers the source mentions. Something like 1 in 5 full-time workers in the U.S. does some form of shift work.
1 in 5? That's huge. And while, not every single one of them gets SWSD, a significant chunk do. And it really impacts their ability to function day to day.
Think about that. That's millions of people trying to navigate this challenge. Okay, so let's talk about what this actually feels like, the symptoms you might experience. The source material, referencing findings, including those from the Cleveland Clinic, points to 2 main indicators of SWSD.
Right. The first one is insomnia, so trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. And what's really interesting here, and the source gets specific, is how this can show up differently depending on when you actually work.
How so?
Well, for instance, if you're working a really early morning shift, say starting between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Brutal.
Yeah. You might find yourself really struggling to fall asleep when you finally get home and into bed during the day.
Right, because your body thinks it's prime wake-up time. Makes sense.
Exactly. But then conversely, if you work mainly in the evening or maybe a later shift, you might actually fall asleep okay initially, but then find yourself waking up a lot during your main sleep period.
Fighting that natural urge to be awake during daylight hours.
Okay.
And the second main sign.
That would be hypersomnia. So this is feeling excessively sleepy when you absolutely need to be awake and alert.
Especially during the shift itself, right? Like a night or early morning shift.
Precisely. And the source highlights that this isn't just, inconvenient. It's critical because it can seriously impact your focus, your reaction time.
Which could make your job harder or even dangerous depending on what you do.
Definitely. And beyond those two key things, the source lists other common symptoms that often go along with it. Difficulty concentrating, persistent headaches, just low energy levels.
That general feeling of drowsiness or just not being sharp on the job.
Yeah, exactly. And it can even show up as like mood swings or being more irritable than usual.
Wow. So what this list really drives home is that if you're experiencing symptoms like these consistently and you're working non-traditional hours.
The guidance from the source is pretty clear. Go talk to a healthcare provider. Don't just brush it off as normal tiredness.
Right. Get it checked out. Okay. So we know what it is and what it feels like, but digging a bit deeper into the source, why does this mismatch happen? Like, biologically?
Well, it all circles back to that internal body clock, the circadian rhythm being out of sync with your required wake-sleep schedule. This whole 24-hour cycle is heavily regulated by cues from the environment, especially light.
Sunlight being the big one, right? Signaling wake-up time to the brain.
Exactly. Sunlight is a super powerful signal, and there are specific hormones that play a really crucial role in sending these signals throughout the body.
Okay, which hormones are we talking about?
The source highlights two key players. First, you've got melatonin. This is often called the sleep hormone. Basically, your brain releases more of it when it gets dark.
Signaling it's nighttime, time to wind down.
Precisely. Time to prepare for rest. Then, the hormone for wakefulness.
Cortisol.
That's the one. Cortisol is often associated with stress, yeah. But it also plays a vital role in promoting wakefulness and alertness. Normally, your cortisol levels are low at night, and they tend to peak in the early morning.
Helping you wake up feeling refreshed, ideally.
Right. So here's where the clash happens with shift work. If you're working through the night, your body is naturally pumping out melatonin, telling you to sleep, while you're trying your best to stay alert.
And fighting your own biology.
Totally. Then, when you get home to sleep during the day, you're trying to rest when your body is suppressing melatonin and potentially hitting its natural cortisol peak, which is like the absolute worst time for deep restorative sleep.
So that daytime sleep just isn't the same quality.
Not at all. Daytime sleep for night workers, as the source points out, is often shorter, it's less deep, and it gets interrupted way more easily than nighttime sleep for, say, 9 to 5 workers.
And this constant forced misalignment between what you have to do and what your body wants to do.
That's the root cause. That's what leads to the trouble falling asleep, and staying awake when you need to, the very definition of SWSD.
And, the source doesn't pull any punches when it comes to the long-term health risks if SWSD is left unmanaged, does it? It's way more than just feeling tired.
No, it really doesn't. This is a super critical insight from the material. Untreated SWSD can lead to some serious chronic health problems down the road. The list is, well, it's quite concerning.
Like what?
Mental health issues, for one, and increased risk of depression and anxiety are mentioned.
That makes sense. I mean, constant sleep deprivation must be incredibly taxing on your mind.
It absolutely is. The source also links it directly to heart problems, specifically things like high blood pressure and generally a higher risk of heart disease.
Wow, okay, so direct impact on cardiovascular health.
Right. And it's also associated with an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. The thinking there is it's related to disrupted metabolism and blood sugar regulation.
Okay, what else?
Weight gain and something called metabolic syndrome. That's like a cluster of conditions that increase your risk for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. Those are also listed.
And I think I saw it mentioned dependence on substances.
Yeah.
Like caffeine or sleeping pills.
Yes, exactly. Needing tons of caffeine just to power through a shift, or maybe relying on sleeping pills to get any rest at all. Those are coping mechanisms that can definitely become problematic.
Right.
And finally, the source notes a weakened immune system, which, makes people more susceptible to getting sick.
So what this comprehensive list really underscores is that sleep isn't just, like, separate from your health. It's foundational.
Absolutely foundational. And disrupting that foundation chronically, like what happens with untreated SWSD, can impact nearly every major system in your body. The source makes a really strong case that addressing SWSD is actually essential preventative health care.
Okay, that's definitely a lot to take in. But the good news, thankfully, is the source material also offers ways to manage and treat SWSD. It admits there's no single magic cure-all, but there are effective strategies.
Yeah, that's the hopeful part. The approaches detailed in the source seem to focus on 3 main goals. First, trying to correct that body clock imbalance as much as possible.
Okay.
Second, reducing that excessive sleepiness during work hours. And third, improving the quality of sleep you do get during your rest periods.
So what are some of the key options it discusses?
Well, they start with the ideal, though often tricky, option, adjusting the work schedule itself. If it's at all possible, aiming for more predictable or consistent shifts rather than constantly rotating ones can make a huge difference. It gives the body a chance to adapt somewhat.
Makes sense. What about things you can do at home?
Then there's focusing on improving your sleep routine and your sleep environment at home. Making your bedroom as dark, quiet, and cool as possible for daytime sleep. Blackout curtains are key.
Oh, yeah. And sticking to a consistent sleep schedule as much as you can.
Yeah.
Even on days off.
Exactly. That consistency really helps anchor your rhythm.
The source also brings up bright light therapy. How does that work?
Yes, so that involves strategically timed exposure to bright light, often using a special light box. The idea is it can help signal wake-up time to your brain and potentially help reset your body clock to align better with your work schedule.
When would you typically use that?
It's usually used before or maybe during the beginning of a night shift to promote alertness.
Okay. And what about melatonin supplements? We mentioned the hormone earlier.
Melatonin is definitely listed as a potential tool. Taking it at the right time and timing is key, can help reinforce the signal to your body that it's time to sleep. It might make it easier to fall asleep after a shift.
Now, the source mentions sleep medications too, but with a bit of a warning, right?
Absolutely. They are discussed as an option, but mainly for short-term use, maybe during really tough schedule transitions. But the source is clear. This should be strictly under the supervision of a healthcare provider.
Because of side effects and dependence risks.
Exactly. And in some specific cases, there are also wake-promoting medications that a doctor might prescribe to help someone stay alert during the shift itself.
So it sounds like it's very much about finding a combination of strategies that work for the individual person, ideally guided by a professional.
Precisely. There's really no one-size-fits-all answer here. What works for someone on a permanent night shift might be totally different for someone on a rapidly rotating schedule,
Got it. Now, the source material also digs into natural supplements that might offer some support. This is always a section people are curious about.
Yes, it explores several natural options that, based on the available information, could potentially help support that circadian health and maybe improve sleep quality for shift workers.
Melatonin comes up again here, but with a bit more specific detail on dosage and timing, I noticed.
Right. It reaffirms its role as the hormone signaling sleep. The source suggests a dosage range, typically low, maybe 0.5 to 3 milligrams,
Okay.
taken about 30 to 90 minutes before your intended sleep time. The idea is that might help you fall asleep faster and potentially help adjust the body clock.
What about magnesium? What's the thinking there?
Magnesium is noted for its role in supporting deeper sleep stages and also helping to reduce muscle tension. So the source suggests it could be particularly helpful if maybe stress or physical restlessness is part of what's keeping you awake.
Makes sense. And l-theanine. I often hear that mentioned for focus, but without the jitters you get from caffeine.
You're spot on. L-theanine is an amino acid found in green tea, mostly. It's associated with promoting what they call alpha brain waves,
Which are linked to.
a state of calm focus or relaxed alertness. So the source indicates it might help reduce anxiety and improve sleep quality without actually making you drowsy, which is obviously key if you need to function.
Right. GABA is next on the list in the source. What's that?
GABA is described as an inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. Basically, it helps calm down nervous system activity. According to the source material, taking supplemental GABA may assist in reducing insomnia, particularly if it's related to stress or just an overactive mind keeping you awake.
Okay. And finally, valerian root. That's a pretty long-standing herbal remedy for sleep, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very well-known traditional option. The source indicates it may help improve sleep latency. That's just how long it takes you to actually fall asleep.
Gotcha.
And maybe overall sleep quality, especially for insomnia that might stem from the disruption of shift work or maybe the anxiety that goes along with it.
So while these aren't presented as cures, obviously the fascinating thing about these supplements, as implied by the source, is that they often target different aspects of the whole sleep-wake struggle.
Exactly. Some are signaling sleep directly. Others are about calming the nervous system or reducing physical tension. It suggests that maybe a multi-pronged approach could be beneficial.
But explored carefully and ideally under guidance.
Absolutely. If we connect this back to the bigger picture, these supplements, when used appropriately alongside those behavioral strategies we talked about, and with professional guidance, they can be part of a broader toolkit for managing SWSD.
Right. Speaking of practical strategies, the source also offers some really useful tips for just coping long-term. You're on night shifts or rotating shifts and navigating this challenge over time.
Yeah, they emphasize the importance of communication, particularly with your employer. If it's at all feasible, having a conversation about potentially getting more predictable or consistent shifts, that can make a significant difference.
Helping your body find some kind of rhythm, even if it's an unconventional one.
Exactly. It just reduces that constant need to readjust.
Making time for daylight exposure and regular exercise is also listed. That seems key.
Both are really fundamental for overall health, and they definitely impact sleep. Daylight is such a powerful circadian cue, it helps reinforce your body's sense of timing. And regular exercise, well, it's known to improve sleep quality, boost mood, and energy levels too.
And how you handle your days off seems crucial as well. It's tempting to just flip back to a normal schedule.
Yeah. Oh, incredibly tempting, especially for social stuff or running errands. But the source advises trying to keep your sleep schedule as steady as possible, even on your days off. Recharge, definitely, but try to avoid drastically changing your sleep-wake times back and forth.
Because that just further confuses your internal clock when you have to go back to your work shifts.
Precisely. It makes the transition back even harder.
And finally, prioritizing regular health checkups. Why is that so important here?
Well, given those documented long-term health risks associated with unmanaged SWSD that we talked about, the heart issues, diabetes risk, mental health,
Right.
including regular screenings for things like blood pressure, blood sugar, and just proactively addressing mental health is really important. The source stresses this as a key long-term coping strategy. Catch any potential issues early.
Okay. So what does this all really mean for you, the listener? Our deep dive into this material makes it abundantly clear that shift work sleep disorder is a significant, really widespread issue. It impacts mental health, physical well-being, and even the safety of millions of people.
But the empowering takeaway here is that while it's definitely challenging, it is absolutely manageable. The source material provides a pretty clear roadmap, doesn't it? It details potential strategies.
Yeah, from adjusting your environment and routine to exploring things like light therapy, maybe supplements, or even medical interventions under professional guidance.
You really don't have to just tough it out and feel perpetually tired or completely out of sync.
Right. With the right understanding and, importantly, personalized strategies, it is possible to improve your sleep quality, boost your mood, and maintain alertness and your overall health, even when your work hours are, well, outside the norm.
And this really raises an important question for you to consider as you think about all this. If sleep is truly such a foundational pillar of our health, and shift work disrupts it so profoundly, how might prioritizing sleep health for shift workers not only improve individual lives, but potentially lead to broader improvements, maybe in things like workplace safety, overall productivity, and perhaps even public health outcomes down the line? Something to think about.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.